Hello, I'm Frank Buckles, North Langley Community Director for the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce. As we have done in past elections, the Chamber is doing candidate videos with candidates running for office. We have a federal election underway, and with me is Jensen, who is the Liberal Party candidate in Langley Aldergrove. Welcome, Leon.
Thank you very much, Frank.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you are running for office this time. I know you ran 4 years ago, so you've got some experience under your belt.
Right. So I spent 42 years in the Canadian Forces, and during that time I was very, I guess the word is apolitical, because we work for the Canadian government, whoever is running at the time. But after that I went to university and decided that I should really get into the political sphere. I researched all the parties, decided I was a Liberal through that research, and discovered, coming back to Langley, the city where I chose to come back to, I could be the candidate and move and help the Liberal Party move forward with some of the great ideas that they've got going.
Okay, so let's discuss a couple of topics. These are mainly of interest to the business community, but several also are of interest much more broadly. And just get some ideas from you on how you see these things. Small business taxation was something that the Liberal government was involved with in the last term, and the finance minister brought in a number of pretty significant changes. And there was quite a lot of resistance from the chambers and other business groups across the country, and the Liberal government changed a number of those things. Do you think the changes that have been made are at the point where small business are being treated fairly in terms of taxation now?
You know, the biggest thing about that whole episode that I really thought was so telling was the way that our Member of Parliament next door, actually John Alday, had a series of meetings with the small business community, listened to people, and made those changes before they actually came out. Now, from what I've been hearing lately, they seem to be okay changes to the small business community. They seem to be competitive within those envelopes. There's always, I'm sure, some ways that we can tweak it to make things better as we go forward. And I would certainly like to work with them in the future to make sure that the small businesses in Langley Aldergrove are at the leading edge of some of those changes so they can take advantage of them.
Very good. The issue of housing is a major issue. You and I were attending a housing forum last weekend, and there's a lot of changes that the federal government has proposed under its national housing strategy. And certainly in our area, not just Langley, but the whole Lower Mainland, we have a problem with housing affordability, rents, lack of rental accommodation, and other things. There's also the issue of the stress test, which is affecting people's ability to get mortgages. What are the things that you see as most important to help deal with the housing issues facing people here?
The biggest thing that I saw actually from that meeting we also had there, was confirmed there, was the national housing strategy that was brought in that allows groups to step forward and work with the federal government and other government levels as well and create that housing for those people that are being left behind in the housing market. And I think it's a great opportunity there. It's still young and still in its infancy, so to speak. But I certainly saw some positive reactions at the meeting just recently, where there were groups within Langley Aldergrove that were taking advantage of that, specifically for seniors in this case.
Yep.
But there's a lot of work that we need to do out there. And I profess I'm not the expert on it, but I'm certainly looking forward to working with the chamber, with the township, to see where the federal government can put their, not just their 2 cents worth in, but can support their efforts as we move forward.
Hopefully there are many millions.
Yeah, more than 2 cents.
Are you hearing, when you campaign and when you talk to people on the doorstep, are you hearing much about housing?
Not as much as we should hear, because most of the doors I'm knocking at are the people that are established, the people that already own that house. It's hard to talk to that, can we call them a disenfranchised group, those people that have yet to make it up on the real estate ladder.
Right.
I'd certainly love to hear from them, and if there are forums available, they can certainly get a hold of me, invite me down, and listen to their concerns. But it's getting that voice of, I think, a lot of the young people that we need to get to the table.
I mean, they're certainly the ones who are most significantly affected.
Right.
No question about that. And then the issue of transportation, and this ties in with housing, because what we're hearing from people a lot is that employees and businesses have to move further and further away to commute to jobs in Langley because of housing affordability. Often that means using Highway 1 from Chilliwack or Abbotsford or Mission or perhaps even Hope to get down here. And Highway 1 is a two-lane highway basically from Langley East, and it's very congested. And you see a role for the federal government in helping to widen that highway, improve that highway, make it easier, and also for our business members who are using transport trucks to get their goods back and forth. They get caught up in this as well. We have many transportation companies based in Langley.
Right. And yes, we've already have the project that's going on around the 200th Street interchange, the 32nd overpass, 216.
Yep.
So there is a lot of federal money that has already been invested in Highway 1, and I'm sure that's going to continue into the future as it moves on. I think our next plug in there is actually going to be at the Abbotsford-Langley border, right where the construction is ending right now. And there is talk about moving that further out there and creating some more traffic lanes down to the airport, which is certainly growing nice and fast up in Abbotsford.
Right.
So it's all part of that interconnectivity, but we also have to push for the environmental aspect of it. We have to put money into transit, mass transit for people, so we can relieve the pressure on the roadways.
Well, you're just leading up to my very next point. SkyTrain. SkyTrain is, the plan is for it to come to Langley, but at this point, there's only enough money on the table to get it to Fleetwood. And it's not going to happen unless the federal government commits a large sum to that completion to Langley. Is that something you will be pushing for if you're elected?
Personally, I would certainly like to see it come to Langley, because there's another step in the equation as well. It's not just people that live in Langley Aldergrove that are trying to get to other parts of the city. We are also a large industrial area, and there are parts of the city that are trying to get to Langley to come to work.
Right.
So if we can reduce that congestion on the highway, we should be able to, by using rapid transit, mass transit, we should be able to relieve some of the congestion out there for the transport trucks and the other industry service vehicles.
Yeah, they're all related.
So it's a massive plan to juggle, and unfortunately we did do that change of direction going from LRT up to SkyTrain, which is costing us a bit in the financial aspect.
And then the last question we have for you is on the Trans Mountain Pipeline. The Liberals government bought that pipeline because it was getting bogged down in regulatory red tape and court challenges. Are you in support of it being twinned?
I support it only because the majority of people that I've talked to that live in the riding support it. Personally, I wish there was another way to get around it, and hopefully we spend all of that money coming in from that project towards the environmental aspects of the future. And I would certainly be accountable for that. Where does the money go?
Good. Thank you very much, Leon.